Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Hira Mustafa and these are the headlines. In the Philippines, at least 17 people have been killed as a military plane crashed on Jolo Island in Sulu province. In a statement, Defense Minister Delfin Lorenzana said 40 people have been rescued so far. Lorenzana said the C-130 aircraft carried 92 people, including 3 pilots and 5 crew. Israeli warplanes have bombed the Gaza Strait, violating a fragile ceasefire with Hamas yet again. The Israel Defense Forces alleged the attack was in response to incendiary balloons launched from the enclave. The occupation forces have also shot dead a civilian in the village of Kasra, south of Nablus city. In Afghanistan, the Taliban claim to have captured 4 more districts in Kandahar, Badakhshan and Farah provinces. For its part, Kabul says the security forces have killed 30 Taliban during operations in Badakhshan province. Brazil has reported more than 1,600 deaths from COVID-19 and over 54,000 cases overnight. In Pakistan, the virus has claimed 29 lives and infected over 1,200 people in the past 24 hours. Globally, there are at least 3.9 million fatalities and over 183 million cases so far. Well, those were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now the news in detail. In the Philippines, at least 17 people have been killed as a military plane crashed on Jolo Island in Sulu province. In a statement, Defense Minister Delfin Lorenzana said 40 people have been rescued so far. Lorenzana said the plane carried 92 people, including 3 pilots and 5 crew. Army Chief General Cirulato Sobejana told media the C-130 missed the runway while trying to land. Sobejana said the aircraft crashed near a village called Bangkal in the town of Patiko. Israeli warplanes have bombed the Gaza Strip, violating a fragile ceasefire with Hamas yet again. The Israel Defense Forces alleged the attack was in response to incendiary balloons launched from the enclave. The Israeli army claims it struck a weapon manufacturing facility and rocket launcher used by Hamas. Medics say 1 man was critically wounded. The occupation forces have also shot dead a civilian in the village of Kasra, south of Nablus city. A military spokesperson says they were trying to disperse confrontations between Israeli settlers and Palestinians. Palestine's Ministry of Health says 2 other civilians were injured in the clashes in West Bank. In Afghanistan, the Taliban claim to have captured 4 more districts in Kandahar, Farah and Badakhshan provinces. In a tweet, the group's spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid said the districts are Panchwal, Farah Root, Kohistan and Kufe-Ab. Meanwhile, the Afghan Defense Ministry says security forces have killed 30 fighters in Badakhshan province. Earlier, former Afghan President Hamid Karzai said the U.S. has failed to fight terrorism and extremism in Afghanistan. In an interview, Karzai noted that ISIS emerged during the presence of the U.S. and NATO forces. Brazil has reported more than 1,600 deaths from COVID-19 and over 54,000 cases overnight. Globally, there are at least 3.9 million fatalities and over 183 million cases. More in this report. The WHO has warned that the world is in a dangerous stage of the pandemic as a Delta variant rages in around 98 countries. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says vaccine availability around the world is being outpaced by variants. Australia's New South Wales state reported a fall in new daily coronavirus cases following 2 days of record infections. Officials implored Sydney residents to follow rules so they could end a lockdown next week.
So whilst the results overnight are very pleasing, there's no doubt the impact of the lockdown has been evidenced. However, to keep that trend going, We need to make sure people don't give in and don't break those rules we've put in place. They're there for a reason. And yes, it's great, sunny outdoors. We'd much prefer you to go outdoors in a COVID-safe way than go to those riskier indoor settings.
The U.S. is set to miss President Joe Biden's target of vaccinating 70% of adults by July 4. More than 605,000 people have died from COVID-19 in the country so far. In Brazil, thousands demanded the impeachment of President Jair Bolsonaro over his pandemic response. The country faces the world's second deadliest outbreak after the U.S., compounded by a slow vaccine rollout. Portugal says it hopes to vaccinate a further 1.7 million people in the next 2 weeks as the highly transmissible Delta variant spreads. Whereas in Asia, India has reported over 43,000 cases and 955 deaths in the last 24 hours, pushing the toll over 402,000. In Pakistan, coronavirus has claimed 29 more lives in the past 24 hours. The Health Ministry said the virus has infected over 1,200 people overnight. The ministry said out of over 32,000 active cases, more than 1,800 are critical. Pakistan has so far registered over 22,400 deaths and more than 962,000 cases. Meanwhile, more than 907,000 people have recovered. Officials say the Moderna vaccine will be available at designated vaccination centers from Monday. Pakistan has received 700,000 more doses of the Sinopharm coronavirus vaccine from China. Another 1.13 million doses are expected to arrive in the country on Sunday. In Pakistan, at least 6 people have died and 2 others injured after their car plunged into the Neelam River in Muzaffarabad. According to police, 4 bodies have been retrieved while 2 are still missing. 2 wounded children were shifted to a nearby medical facility, and officials said the group of 8 was heading towards the upper belt of the valley. The cause of the accident remains unclear, but eyewitnesses attribute it to a burst tire. Nigeria has thanked Pakistan and its armed forces for their support in its war against terrorism. President Muhammadu Buhari met Pakistan's Chairman Joint Chief of Staff, Commandant General Nadeem Raza in Abuja. The military's media wing said matters of bilateral military cooperation, including counter-terrorism, were discussed. It added that the 2 officials also discussed the prevailing regional environment. Nigerian Defense Minister Bashir Salehi Magashi and Chief of Defense Staff General Leo Arabor were also present in the meeting. They expressed satisfaction with the performance of newly inducted JF-17 fighter jets from Pakistan. The Nigerian military leaders said the aircraft will be useful in addressing the country's security requirements. President Joe Biden has directed U.S. intelligence agencies to investigate the latest ransomware attack. The colossal attack hit hundreds of American businesses and led to suspicions of Russian gang involvement. Talking to reporters in Michigan, Biden said the government is not certain who is behind the attack. He said the initial thinking is that it is not the Russian government. However, the president reiterated that Washington will respond if the investigation points to Moscow.
The fact is that I've directed the intelligence community to give me a deep dive on what's happened, and I'll know better tomorrow. And if it is either with the knowledge of and or a consequence of Russia, then I told Putin we will respond. And
you didn't tell him already, sir?
No, I haven't called because we're not certain. The initial thinking was it was not the Russian government. But we're not sure yet.
In the United States, police have arrested 11 heavily armed, self-professed militia members near Boston after an overnight standoff. In a statement, the police said the arrested people were dressed in military style. They added that the suspects were traveling from the state of Rhode Island for training in Maine. American media has identified the group as members of the Rise of the Moors. The militia does not recognize American laws but professes to be peaceful. In the U.S. state of Florida, officials have temporarily paused rescue efforts at the site of a residential building that collapsed in Miami. They are instead preparing to demolish the building's standing portion ahead of a tropical storm. Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava says the demolition can take place on Sunday. Talking to reporters, Cava said the families of the victims have been informed of the decision and that they understand. Meanwhile, the death toll rose to 24 after rescue workers pulled out 2 more bodies from the rubble. Authorities say 191 people have been accounted for so far, while 120 are still missing. More news stories coming up after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. At least 2 people have been killed after tropical storm ELSA battered the southern coast of the Dominican Republic. Officials say the deaths were recorded in Baruco province after a wall collapsed due to heavy winds. Some flooding was also reported in San Cristobal province, prompting about 100 evacuations. However, the storm is slowing down as it passed between Haiti and Jamaica. The U.S. National Hurricane Center says ELSA is now clocking maximum sustained winds at 110 kilometers per hour. It is expected to move across central and western Cuba and head towards the Florida Straits by Monday. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has opened a strategic naval base on the Mediterranean Sea to secure shipping lines. In a statement, the presidency said the base will focus on securing the country's northern and western fronts. The base lies some 160 miles west of Alexandria towards the border with Libya. State media said it includes an airstrip and a 1,000-meter-long pier. The inaugural ceremony was attended by Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Egypt has 3 other naval bases in the Mediterranean and 1 in the Red Sea. More than 700 rescuers have arrived at a Japanese town hit by a landslide that killed 2 people. About 20 people are still missing in the resort town of Atami, southwest of the capital, Tokyo. The rescuers climbed onto cracked roofs and searched cars thrown onto buildings amid intermittent rain. Japanese media says about 387 people have been evacuated as of Sunday morning. The meteorological agency says heavy rain is expected to continue in areas along the Sea of Japan. It warned the public to be vigilant against further mudslides, flooding and swollen rivers. Canadian authorities have ordered the residents of British Columbia to evacuate amid raging wildfires. Officials say 176 fires are active across the province, including 76 that were reported over the past 2 days. They said more than 1,300 homes have been ordered to evacuate. Authorities noted the fires are expected to raise 100,000 hectares by the weekend. Meteorologists have warned of more lightning strikes that could stoke forest fires fanned by high winds. British Columbia has been recovering from an unprecedented heat wave, which has so far caused 719 deaths. China has successfully launched 5 new satellites into their planned orbit. The satellites blasted off a Long March 2 carrier rocket from the Tian Center in Shanxi province. They will be used to conduct a survey of the space environment and experiments on related technologies. According to the Launch Center, this is the 376th mission of the Long March rocket series. Earth is one country and we are all citizens of that one country. These are the words of an 83-year-old Frenchman who claims to have visited every existing country in the world. More about his globetrotting in this report. Andre Bruguiere, the now retired globetrotter, says he has visited 251 countries and territories over the course of his lifetime. The territories include unrecognized states such as Somaliland or Tristan da Cunha Island, the most remote inhabited archipelago of the world.
I might make people smile, but I think that in order to travel well, there's only one recipe, and it is not in tourist guides. You need to love people, and then they'll come to you, because you need to understand that travel depends on the traveler.
The adventurer first left France at the age of 17 to work as a waiter in Scotland. His travels would end up taking Bruguière across Europe to Canada and from there around the world. From 1967 to 1973, he traveled 400,000 kilometers by hitching rides on cars, boats and planes, spending less than $1 a day.
Au bout d'un mois, je m'aperçois que j'ai dépensé.
After a month, I realized I was spending $1 a day, and I thought to myself, wait a minute, if you keep on spending $1 a day, the whole world is yours. That's when I realized that if I only hitchhiked without going to hotels, I could see the whole world. That first became my method in South America. I did not know I would travel 400,000 kilometers hitchhiking. It just happened like that.
His journey only came to a temporary end as a dysentery forced him to return to France to heal. After that, Bruguière kept on traveling every year until 2019, when he finally settled down as his age did not allow him to go on. Bruguière has written several books, produced a documentary using the footage he recorded while traveling, and given dozens of conferences to share the teachings of his adventures.
For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.